Good morning. I'm Saini at the University of Canberra, and I'm in my weekly conversation with Michelle Grattan. We are talking about the week in politics. Good morning, Michelle.
Hi, Deep.
Michelle, on Monday, we are going to see the 30th consecutive negative news poll for this government. And that repeats the history a little bit. Actually, it repeats the history quite well. If you go back to 2015, Malcolm Turnbull challenged Tony Abbott over exactly the same situation. Where does he stand now that the roles are reversed?
A bit embarrassed, it must be said. He has acknowledged that he wishes he hadn't drawn in Newspoll when he gave several reasons for launching his challenge against Tony Abbott, but you can't rewrite history, and now he's faced with the problem of dealing with this expected 30th negative poll. He's already started to say, well, I gave a number of reasons for challenging. It wasn't just the polls. But nevertheless, it's going to be a difficult day for him on Monday if the numbers are as we expect. One backbencher suggested that he should acknowledge the irony of it all. Well, I don't know that that's Malcolm Turnbull. I don't think that that's necessarily in his nature. And of course, Tony Abbott is making absolutely sure that this is visually in people's minds, because he's going to be out and about on his bike in the electorate of Gippsland, highlighting the power issue.
He's definitely not going to let it drop, even if Turnbull wants to drop it.
Well, that's exactly right. Tony Abbott remains really, really angry about what happened to him and his loss of leadership, and I don't think that mood's going to change.
Now, you mentioned backbenchers, so in that area also, it's not all rosy for Turnbull. They have formed this Monash Forum, and they are calling for government to invest in coal-fired power plants. Does this movement have legs, and what does this movement mean for Malcolm Turnbull? I
think there are a number of motives among those who've signed up to the so-called Monash Forum. We don't actually know how many, actually. There's been numbers thrown around of 20, 30, whatever, probably more likely 20 than 30, I think, but there's no clarity. Now, some of these are the very core Abbott group, Tony Abbott himself, Kevin Andrews, Erica Betts, and they are committed to the coal cause, but they're also about causing trouble. Others, especially Nationals, are very much into the issue of coal and believe strongly in the government getting directly involved in constructing coal-fired power stations. It won't come to anything in the sense that the government won't put its money into such power stations for a number of reasons, but not least because it's not economic. If commercial firms won't do it, well, it's a good reason for the government not to do it, frankly. We're moving out of coal gradually, and this would be very much going against that transition. But nevertheless, with energy policy still being bedded down by the government, the noise coming from these backbenchers is, to put it mildly, unhelpful.
Turnbull, of course, is claiming that the party leadership is strongly behind him. Is that true? It seems like that you're saying that he has the support from within the party room.
Well, there are two issues here. On energy, yes, the party room has endorsed the government's plan for a national energy guarantee, and that's the plan that's been discussed with the states. However, I think that some backbenchers, clearly from what we see at the Monash Forum, have their doubts about that, don't think it goes far enough. So the mood can always change and become more fractious on an issue, and we don't know whether that'll happen. On the question of leadership generally, and that comes back to this Monday poll, I think that people are behind Malcolm Turnbull because although they're very agitated now about the next election, only a year away, the alternatives are just not obviously any better. In 2015, you had Tony Abbott floundering, you had a clear alternative. Now you have people who would be probably less able to hang on to seats than Malcolm Turnbull. Now, that's not to say that his leadership is roll gold safe. I think in the present volatile political climate you can never say that, but as we sit here this day, I think that his leadership is relatively solid.
Speaking of alternatives, you can count on Greens to come up with alternatives, and
radical alternatives.
The radical ones.
Getting more so.
Yeah, so their leader has now proposed, Di Natale, he has proposed the idea of a people's bank. Is it likely to go anywhere, and what is the substance in this proposal?
The context of the proposal is that Di Natale's leadership has come under some criticism with the failure to win the Batman by-election and also poor performances, especially in Tasmania, the state election there. Tasmania is the Greens' heartland. The People's Bank is an idea to give people low-interest housing loans. It would really be the Reserve Bank making available finance. It's not a very viable proposition at any level, really, although it comes off, of course, the discontent that the public has at the moment with the big banks who've performed badly and are now being exposed in the hearings of the Royal Commission. But the idea of having the Reserve Bank go back into some sort of commercial banking role, I think, is misguided. Originally, the Commonwealth Bank was both a central bank and had a commercial role, and the Reserve Bank has been separated out. That's no longer the case. And also the idea of a nationalised bank, as it were, is again going backwards, I think, rather than forwards. I think that the commercial banks need to perform much better, but the People's Bank is not the solution to the problem.
All right, well, we'll look to Monday for the Newspoll. It's going to be a big week for the government and for opposition, and we'll have much to discuss next Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a nice weekend.